and we're live. So let's go ahead and get started.
Welcome to Group 1's presentation on Apache Web Server. Our group is comprised of Angela, who has 16 years of experience, Shiva, who has 18 years of experience, Kevin brings 10 years of experience, and Matt brings 2 years of experience to our group. Today, we are going to be discussing Apache Web Server. But before we get into the details of that specific web server, we need to look at what a web server is and how it works. So in general, a web server utilizes the internet to deliver content and/or services to the end users. The web server consists of a physical server as well as the operating system and the software that is used to facilitate HTTP, which is only one of the protocols used on the internet to transmit things. It is the protocol that sends web pages from the host to the requesting end users. As I mentioned, a web server is made up of hardware and software, both working together. The hardware consists of the computer equipment used to perform input, processing, storage, and output activities. Software consists of the computer programs that govern the operation of the computer. With that background, now we can discuss the role of a web server. Its main purpose is to host and deliver content. The server machine hosts or stores the website on its hard drive, while the server program helps deliver the web pages and their associated files, like images and flash movies, to the client's browser. Now that you have a general understanding of web servers, Shiva is going to start the discussion on the specific web server Apache.
Thank you, Angela, for a brief overview on web servers in general. Now let me take you through the Apache web server. According to netcraft.com, Apache has been the most popular and widely used web server in the last decade, and it is an HTTP 1.1 compliant web server. Over 60% of the internet websites are using Apache, studies have confirmed. It is an open source web server, and it means it is free. With web servers being a hub for information or exchange of information, Apache is considered to be a very safe, fast, and a reliable web server. It is considered to be more secure than leading competitors like Microsoft's IIS. The web server application runs mostly on Unix, Linux, and Solaris platforms, but also spans across Windows and Mac platforms. It forms a powerful web platform with several features, including CGI, SSL, virtual domains. The next slide, let me go over a few features that are unique to Apache web server. So Apache web server has many features, many powerful features. It can be configured through a command line or a GUI, and the configuration files are simple text files and does not require complex programs to edit the configuration. It even allows you to set up a CGI script to handle 500 server errors or any other exceptions. Virtual host is another feature that allows the server to distinguish between requests made to different IP addresses or names, all map to the same server. For authentication, Apache server uses relational database and LDAP. It also integrates with other open source and proprietary applications like PHP. It's a server-side HTML embedded scripting language producing dynamic web pages, MySQL, another popular open source database, and Python, which is dynamic object-oriented programming language. Apache server has no fixed limit of number of aliases and redirects which may be declared in the set of files. Content negotiation is another feature, which is the ability to automatically serve clients with varying sophistication and compliance with information and information documents that the client is capable of accepting. In the next slide, Kevin will speak to the architecture of Apache. Kevin?
Thank you, Shiva. Apache is comprised of two main building blocks. There is the core, and there are the modules. Apache is required at least to have at least one core, but Apache uses many different multiprocessing modules to dispatch and thread the data to the cores. You can add as many different modules as you need, and Apache comes preloaded with many different modules already on it. The one caution with the modules is to not load more than what you need because this does open you up to vulnerabilities. This is one of the benefits of using Apache. The hardware requirements for using Apache, there are no hardware requirements out there. As you add modules to Apache, you'll just need to add more resources to the server. The minimum to run the program is just an 800 megahertz processor and 512 megabytes of RAM. To install install Apache on the server, you will need 50 meg of temporary free space for the install, but after that, you only need 10 megabytes of space to store the actual program. Depending on the size of data that Apache is serving out and the number of sessions that Apache is handling, will dictate the size of RAM and the hard drive space that is needed for the Apache install once you're complete. One of the key things that Apache needs is an accurate connection to an NTP server or a network time protocol server. It would be best if the Apache server was connected to a Stratum 2 server. This will allow for accurate timestamps on the web pages. When discussing operating systems that Apache can run on, there are several out there. There is no real recommendation as to what operating system you're required to have to run Apache on. The only real consideration is that if you'll have more than 10 consecutive clients that you load Apache on a Linux or Windows server. After looking at the server and hardware requirements, Matt will talk to you about native scripting support for Apache.
Apache Web Server supports almost all of the major scripting languages available for web today, including many languages such as ASP, JavaScript in all the major varieties, C script in all the major varieties, Python, Ruby, Perl, and PHP. One of the things that Apache does not natively support is Java and Enterprise Java Beans, which I'll discuss now. Picking the right web server for your business is a very detailed process. Some of the pros for Apache Web Server are that it is free and open source. It's compatible with all the major web servers available today. It's scalable and can grow with your business, and it's flexible with many, many modules that can be installed on top of the core systems. Again, the cons for Apache are that it has no native support for Java or Enterprise Java Beans, and it is open source, so it does not have the option for corporate level service agreements like Microsoft Server would. However, Apache Tomcat will service Java functionality as an Apache offering for a web server. And Apache has one of the largest open source developer networks in the world, so support for Apache is very readily available. Finally, picking Apache for your web server will put you in good standing with companies such as Comcast, Yahoo, LinkedIn, and many others from around the world. At this time, are there any questions?
Okay, that was a great job. I really like that last slide talking about some of the different places that use Apache. Would have liked to maybe have seen a little bit more detail on that relative to some of the other platforms that are available. Where does Apache fit in there? How dominant are they in the marketplace? How do you see as far as the training that's available? For example, like you mentioned Microsoft, IIS is obviously a very, they've got a very structured program. There's lots of training opportunities, there's certifications, and it's pretty easy to go to. You look for Microsoft training and you can go do that. How does Apache kind of fill in and take advantage of that, or how do they try to do the same kinds of things in some sort of a cohesive way, since there's so many different groups?
Well, there are a lot of YouTube training modules out there. As amusing as that may sound, as one of the top ways to learn about some of these software functions is, go to Apache and follow their web tutorials, and they'll walk you through installations, getting started, configuring it from either the user interface or the command line. There's system requirements, videos, just everything you could ask for is in there somewhere.
Okay. Anybody else?
But there's no licensing that I found.
Okay. Anybody else?
All the trainings that I've seen are primarily from the websites, the YouTube sites, and also some of the, in the research document, I think the Apache server, the official site also offers a lot of materials in terms of guiding through the installation, the updates, and all the informations are available in their website, the Apache website itself.
What was your general feeling of working with Apache? Did you get a chance to kind of see any of the configuration settings or anything like that, and how to work with it and how to interact with it compared to, say, IIS?
It looked very user-friendly and very easy to install.
Okay. Anybody else?
It looked really easy, and I think that part of it being open source actually gives you some help because there's a lot more people out there using it and a lot more resources to come to whenever you have problems. People look at.
Okay, I completely agree as far as YouTube being a valuable resource. There's so much stuff that's out there. Somebody has run across, and you're right, as far as being open source, even though it's not there's not this centralized, so to speak, Microsoft, for example, corporation that's driving support. It's amazing how people are willing to cooperate and work together to be able to solve problems. The one last question I had is really more geared towards this process of presenting. What do you guys think of this? How did you feel about it? How painful was it? What did you like about it?
From my standpoint, I struggled, but you know my struggles. Mine was connectivity.
Right.
Once I got that resolved, this process has been great. I like the fact that I can interact with my teammates visually. I can see what's going on, as well as we can have this going and then kind of be working in Google Docs on the document live too. I really like that feature.
Okay, good deal. Anybody else?
I liked it.
Go ahead, Kenneth. Sorry.
I liked it. It was good. It was nice to be able to actually see people instead of just chatting in a window and not really knowing who you're talking to, or
Sure.
be able to get along a lot better like that.
I was a little surprised we weren't using Google Hangouts, but this is definitely a good alternative.
Yeah, to be honest with you, that was how I kind of initially envisioned it, was using Google Hangouts. I found that some students seem to struggle with Hangouts a little bit more occasionally. And the user-friendliness of this really, it's pretty intuitive. I like Hangouts. I'm not running away from Google, don't get me wrong. But this just really seemed to be very easy for everybody, because some people are coming into our classes that have a lot of experience, and some are coming in with really very little. We don't have a lot of prerequisites coming into the program, so we're trying to accommodate all those needs in one place. So are there any other questions?
No, I really like it. In fact, if I remember, in one of your class earlier, we used to record and send it to you. This is much more nicer to have a real feel of real-time presentation. Interaction with the team is much more in this way than the other methods. So I really liked it. This is a great way to go.
Yeah, that was kind of my goal, is I wanted to move towards more of a synchronous, type thing. And I know that can be difficult, that because we're talking about an online class, all of us have different schedules. And so trying to coordinate those, I know sometimes can be difficult, but I also think that the benefits can outweigh those problems. So if it's not too cumbersome, if we can work out a time that works for you guys and works for me, we can do this. I think we get more value than we do inconveniences.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I really don't mean to cut it short, but I got another one coming right up. So if that's it, I'm going to go ahead and cut you guys loose. And thank you very much. I really do appreciate it.
Have a good day.
Have a great day.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.